Senator Markey, almost no one has done as much as you've done to help the cause of nuclear disarmament. And that's why I and many, many other people at Mass Peace Action feel that it's desperately necessary that you be reelected. Now more than ever, your work is needed. The United States has reserved the right to use nuclear weapons first, a doctrine which places the whole world on edge. Congress is funding a new nuclear weapons buildup and participating in the hostility and arms races with Russia and China. President Trump is canceling arms control treaties and threatening to renew atmospheric testing. How do we get Congress to cut nuclear weapons spending and build momentum for disarmament, exemplified by your saying halt and no first use bills?
Thank you, Elaine, and I love being over at your conference over at Harvard a couple of years ago, and allowing me to speak at it. Thank you so much. And I actually keep your book right on my desk, by the way. So it's just a seminal analysis of the pathology that nuclear weapons has built into our society and into our world. So yes, the SANE Act is something that I've been introducing year after year so that we can talk about the need for us to cut $75 billion out of our nuclear weapons program, unneeded, a waste. We should be negotiating with other countries, not building the incentives for them to be accelerating their nuclear arms programs as well. It makes absolutely no sense. It just makes the world less safe rather than more safe. I introduced a couple of weeks ago the PAUSE Act. The PAUSE Act actually would just ban any further underground nuclear testing in the United States. The president and his advisors are now talking about allowing for a resumption of underground nuclear testing and or even atmospheric nuclear testing, because it's the Donald Trump administration. Who knows what lurks in this man's mind? So since 1986, when my amendment passed on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, banning underground nuclear testing as long as the Soviets did not test underground, that was the beginning of the end of that whole regime. And now Donald Trump, like every other bad idea that he's embraced, is seeking to, recommence that kind of an arms race, which is absolutely insane. So I introduced the PAUSE Act in order to deal with that issue. In the same way that I introduced my no first use legislation. No first use, saying to the president, you do not have the right to start a nuclear war against another country, North Korea or anyone else, if we have not been attacked by nuclear weapons. You do not have the right unless you get affirmative permission from the United States House and the United States Senate. That's my no first use bill, which actually led to, unbelievably, the first hearing on this subject of first use in a generation in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, just driving this discussion. And you could look over at the other senators as they were hearing this discussion about how a president without a real conversation with anyone would be able to launch our nuclear weapons, which would lead to ultimately an apocalyptic moment on this planet, from which we would not recover, perhaps forever. So that's my goal. My goal is to make sure that we don't allow Trump to even pull out of existing treaties. That's why I introduced the PAUSE Act, saying he can't withdraw from these treaties without getting the permission of the House and the Senate. The man is a menace. Yes, he's a racist, but he's also not a person that we want to have a finger on the nuclear weapon. The clock is getting closer and closer to midnight. The hands are getting closer and closer. So from my perspective, this whole Trump era has to end. It has to be a footnote in history. It has to be something that's just viewed as aberrational. And our agenda has to be the one that is put in place so that we take unnecessary military expenditures, nuclear expenditures, and we move them over to the healthcare, to the education of the people in our country. That's what people out on the streets of our country are calling for. They're standing up and they're demanding it. And that's what all these bills are that I've introduced so that we can have this debate in our country. And it's why, when I get reelected, why, when Joe Biden is sworn in as president, why, when we're in the majority in the Senate, these are the hearings we'll be having immediately to make sure we have these discussions. So, Elaine, thank you so much for everything you do.